The bass thumped a relentless rhythm against the floor, vibrating up through the soles of my sensible heels. The air in the trendy Manhattan bar was thick with the scent of overpriced cocktails, ambition, and desperation. I clutched my sparkling water, feeling like an alien anthropologist observing a peculiar mating ritual. This was Chloe's idea of broadening my social horizons. My idea of a thrilling Friday night involved debugging code or diving into a complex algorithm. But here I was, Ashley, a bright but unassuming 25-year-old, caught in the eye of this particular storm. My life, for as long as I could remember, had revolved around one unwavering principle: intellect over appearances. While other girls in high school fretted over prom dresses and boyfriends, I was dissecting Shakespeare and excelling in AP calculus. College was a blur of late-night study sessions and early morning lectures, culminating in advanced degrees that now formed the bedrock of my burgeoning career in tech. I loved the elegant logic of programming, the tangible satisfaction of building something new, something smart. My mind was my universe, and it was a universe I found endlessly fascinating. Chloe, bless her fashionable heart, saw things differently. "Ashley," she'd sigh dramatically, "you're brilliant, you're kind, you're practically a unicorn. But you dress like a librarian from the 80s, and your idea of a thrilling conversation is the existential crisis of AI. You need to live a little, date, experience." And so, experience often meant enduring excruciating blind dates. Tonight was no exception. Chloe, perched beside me like a brightly plumed bird, was already scanning the room. "He's supposed to be an investment banker," she whispered, her eyes alight. "Super successful, and apparently he has a jawline that could cut glass." I mentally rolled my eyes. Jawlines didn't optimize code. Jawlines didn't solve complex problems. But I smiled obligingly, sipping my water. Chloe meant well. She genuinely believed that a man, especially a super successful one, was the missing piece in my carefully constructed, intellectually stimulating life. Suddenly, Chloe nudged me. "There!" Tall, dark suit just walked in. "That has to be Alex." I followed her gaze. He was indeed tall, and his suit was undoubtedly expensive. As he scanned the room, his eyes, sharp and assessing, moved over the crowd, lingering on Chloe's vibrant dress, then flicking dismissively past me. My usual blind date experience involved awkward small talk, forced smiles, and a mutual agreement that we were better off as strangers. Tonight, I had a premonition it would be worse. Alex spotted Chloe, his perfectly sculpted jawline indeed impressive as he smiled, a confident, almost arrogant flash of white teeth. He navigated the crowded room with the easy grace of someone who knew they belonged. "Chloe, darling," he exclaimed, air-kissing her cheek. His voice was smooth, resonant, the kind that probably commanded attention in boardrooms. Then his gaze flicked to me, a momentary pause, and I could practically hear the mental tallying happening in his head. Plain dress, glasses, no obvious makeup. His smile faltered, replaced by a subtle, almost imperceptible narrowing of his eyes. "Alex, this is my amazing best friend Ashley," Chloe chirped, beaming. "Ashley, this is Alex." He offered a perfunctory nod, his eyes already drifting back to the more aesthetically pleasing patrons of the bar. "Pleasure," he murmured, devoid of any actual pleasure. The first 10 minutes were polite, forced banter, mostly between Chloe and Alex. I offered short, factual answers when directly addressed, feeling increasingly like a third wheel, or perhaps a particularly dull piece of furniture. Then Chloe, bless her persistent heart, tried to draw me in. "Alex, Ashley is brilliant. She just got her PhD in computer science, and she's about to start a huge new role as COO at that cutting-edge AI firm I told you about." I felt a faint blush creep up my neck. I hated being presented like an academic trophy. Alex, however, didn't seem impressed. He took a long, slow sip of his expensive cocktail, his eyes, cold and appraising, finally focusing on me, but not in a way that felt like recognition. It felt like calculation, a dismissive one. He set his glass down with a soft click, a smug smile playing on his lips. Honestly, he began, his voice dripping with condescension. With that look, and all you talk about is books and algorithms, you'll never land a boyfriend, Ashley. His gaze swept over my unstyled hair, my simple dress, my utterly unglamorous demeanor. You're just a brain, no beauty. Let's be real. In this city, in any city, looks matter. Confidence, sparkle. You're efficient, I'm sure. But you lack the it factor. He chuckled, a low, dismissive sound that seemed to reverberate through the noisy bar. You can probably solve a quadratic equation in your head, but I bet you couldn't get a second date if your life depended on it. The words hung in the air, sharp and uncomfortably loud. My blood ran cold, then boiled. My mouth opened, ready to unleash a retort forged in years of intellectual sparring, to dismantle his arrogance with logic and wit. I wanted to tell him that my brain had built systems that made his investment banking possible, that my lack of sparkle was because I chose substance over superficiality. I wanted to tell him that I was about to embark on a role that would give me power far beyond his wildest dreams. But before I could utter a single syllable, Chloe erupted. Her normally cheerful face was a mask of furious indignation. "Alex, how dare you? What kind of Neanderthal says something like that to a woman, let alone my best friend? Ashley is 10 times the person you'll ever be. She's brilliant, she's kind, and she doesn't need some superficial, arrogant jerk like you to validate her worth." Her voice, usually so melodic, was a sharp, furious crackle. Heads turned. Alex, utterly blindsided by Chloe's ferocity, actually flinched. His smug smile vanished, replaced by a look of bewildered shock. He had clearly expected me, the brain, no beauty, to wither under his disdain, not to have a dragon for a best friend. Chloe grabbed my arm, her grip surprisingly strong. "Come on, Ash," she seethed, pulling me away from the table. "We are not spending another second with this misogynistic imbecile." We turned our backs on Alex, leaving him frozen in mid-sentence, his jawline perhaps still cutting glass, but now from pure shock. Chloe dragged me through the throng of people, her furious whispers filling my ears. "I cannot believe that guy. What a pig. I am so sorry, Ash. I promise no more blind dates. Ever." We spilled out onto the bustling Manhattan street, the cool night air a welcome balm on my heated cheeks. Chloe was still fuming, pacing back and forth. But as I stood there, the anger began to settle, replaced by a strange, quiet certainty. Alex's words, intended to wound, had instead ignited something new within me. He had seen only what he chose to see, the no beauty. He had dismissed me, utterly and completely. And in that moment, as the flashing yellow cabs streamed past and the city hummed with its endless energy, a dangerous little smile touched my lips. Tomorrow was my first day as the chief operating officer. Tomorrow the world was about to change for Alex, and he had no idea. The brain, no beauty, was about to show him exactly what she was capable of. The city hummed with a different kind of energy the next morning. Not the chaotic throb of a Friday night bar, but the purposeful hum of a metropolis getting to business. I woke with a jolt, the lingering sting of Alex's words from the night before, still fresh, yet oddly empowering. Brain, no beauty. You'll never land a boyfriend. His arrogance, instead of wounding me, had sharpened my resolve. Today wasn't just another day, it was the day. My first day as the chief operating officer of Aperture AI, a cutting-edge firm poised to revolutionize the industry. I slipped into my sharpest power suit, a charcoal gray, impeccably tailored, chosen not for fashion, but for the quiet authority it exuded. My glasses, usually perched comfortably on my nose, felt like a secret weapon. My hair, pulled back into a sleek, no-nonsense bun, was a declaration of intent. No sparkle needed. Today, substance would speak louder than any superficial shine. The Aperture AI building was a monument to modern ambition, sleek glass and steel rising into the Manhattan skyline. The lobby was minimalist, futuristic, echoing the innovative spirit of the company. I felt a surge of exhilaration as I stepped into the elevator, the cool air conditioning a welcome contrast to the humid morning outside. This was my world now. This was where my brain would truly shine. My new office was everything I had imagined, spacious, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a breathtaking view of the city. A meticulously organized desk awaited me, already stacked with reports and a gleaming new laptop. I took a moment to breathe it all in. A quiet, internal affirmation of everything I had worked for. At 9 a.m. sharp, my assistant, a bright-eyed young woman named Maria, escorted me to the executive conference room. "Everyone's waiting, Ms. Hayes," she chirped, her voice full of anticipation. I took a deep breath, composed myself, and pushed open the heavy oak door. The room was bathed in natural light, a long, polished conference table dominating the space. Around it sat a dozen or so faces, a mix of engineers, project managers, and senior analysts. As I stepped in, their collective murmurs ceased. All eyes turned to me, a mixture of curiosity and subtle apprehension on their faces. I was young for a COO, especially in a company of this stature. I knew I had to command respect from the first second. My gaze swept across the team, a confident, assessing glance honed by years of academic presentations and high-stakes interviews. I registered the nervous energy, the subtle shifts in posture as they tried to gauge their new boss, and then my eyes locked with a familiar, horrified face. He sat near the end of the table, his usually arrogant posture now stiff and slumped. His perfectly sculpted jawline, the one Chloe had gushed about, was slack. His eyes, normally sharp and dismissive, were wide with a dawning horror, fixed on me with an almost comical disbelief. Alex. He was a mid-level analyst, according to the company directory I'd skimmed last night. Alex Peterson. I remembered his name, though not his face with any particular fondness until now. The man who, less than 12 hours ago, had smugly informed me that I was just a brain, no beauty, utterly incapable of landing a second date, the man who had dismissed my entire being based on a superficial glance and a few cutting remarks. A flicker of pure, unadulterated satisfaction surged through me. It wasn't triumph, not yet. It was a potent, exhilarating sense of dramatic irony. He was frozen in shock, a deer caught in headlights, recognizing the woman he had so cruelly mocked hours before. His face, usually tanned and confident, was now pale, almost sickly green. His eyes darted around the room, as if searching for an escape hatch, a hole to swallow him whole. I felt a ghost of a smile touch my lips, a smile that never quite reached my eyes. It was a cold, cutting edge of amusement. I made no immediate acknowledgement of our prior encounter. Not yet. The reveal, the full, devastating weight of it, would be far more impactful if delivered with professional precision. I walked to the head of the table, my steps measured and deliberate. Maria pulled out the chair for me, and I settled into it, placing my briefcase neatly beside me. "Good morning, everyone," I began, my voice clear, steady, and authoritative, resonating with a quiet power that commanded attention. I let my gaze sweep over the room again, pausing for a fraction of a second on Alex, my expression utterly neutral. "I'm Ashley Hayes, your new Chief Operating Officer." A ripple went through the room. Some offered polite, murmuring welcomes. Others exchanged subtle glances, undoubtedly registering my youth and the suddenness of my appointment. But Alex was visibly trembling. His hands were clasped so tightly on the table that his knuckles were white. He couldn't meet my gaze, his eyes darting frantically between me and his notes, as if seeking refuge. "I've spent the past few weeks immersing myself in Aperture's groundbreaking work," I continued seamlessly, as if there wasn't a gaping, humiliated man shrinking in his seat. "Your innovations in AI are truly impressive, and I'm excited to lead this team into its next phase of growth." I gestured to a slide projected onto the large screen. "Today, I want to review our Q3 projections and address some immediate strategic priorities." "Alex?" I paused, my voice a silken thread, barely perceptible. "Mr. Peterson." If you would, please start us off with the financial overview you've prepared. I believe you're a mid-level analyst in the financial department, correct? His head snapped up, his eyes wide with terror. My polite, formal address only heightened his mortification. The use of Mr. Peterson, the subtly emphasized mid-level, the casual tone as if he were just any employee, hit harder than any direct accusation. He was no longer the arrogant man holding court at a bar. He was an employee, subordinate to the woman he had belittled. He stammered, trying to find his voice. Yes, Ms. Hayes, that's correct." He fumbled with his laptop, his hands shaking so much he almost dropped his pen. His face was a beet-red flush. "Excellent," I said, a faint, almost imperceptible smirk touching my lips. "Please proceed, Mr. Peterson. I'm keen to see your projections." The meeting began. Alex, though clearly rattled, tried to deliver his presentation. His voice cracked, his usual confident delivery replaced by hesitant stumbles. He kept darting nervous glances at me as if expecting a lightning bolt to strike him down. The other colleagues, sensing the unspoken tension, shifted uncomfortably, some subtly watching the exchange, others pretending to be engrossed in their notes. I listened to his presentation with a poker face, interjecting with sharp, precise questions that probed the weaknesses in his data, the assumptions in his forecasts. My questions were purely professional, designed to assess his competence, but each one, delivered with calm authority, seemed to chip away at his already shattered composure. He struggled to answer, sweating visibly. His earlier dismissal of my brain now felt like a cruel joke, the irony too profound to ignore. By the end of the meeting, Alex was a wreck. He stammered through his conclusion, clearly desperate for it to be over. As the meeting concluded and others began to pack up their laptops, Alex tried to slip away unnoticed. "Mr. Peterson," I called out, my voice clear, stopping him dead in his tracks. He turned slowly, his face a picture of utter dread. I stood, gathering my own notes, my gaze meeting his. My voice was low, for his ears only, cutting through the murmurs of the room. "I believe we met briefly last night, Mr. Peterson." "At the Onyx. I believe it was." My tone was polite, almost conversational, yet it carried the weight of 1,000 unspoken words. He paled further, if that were possible. He opened his mouth, then closed it. He looked like a fish out of water, gasping for air. "Ms. Hayes, I am so incredibly sorry. I didn't know. I truly didn't. What I said, it was inexcusable. A terrible mistake." He was scrambling, desperate to salvage something, anything. But there was nothing to salvage. I simply looked at him, my expression unreadable. "Indeed, Mr. Peterson," I said, my voice cool and dismissive. "It was quite unprofessional. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a company to run." I turned, leaving him standing there, utterly humiliated. He had dismissed me as a brain, no beauty. Now he was face to face with the full, undeniable power of that brain. This was not just about revenge. It was about a profound, satisfying validation. My capabilities, my worth, were being demonstrated not in a bar, but in the very real, very high-stakes world of corporate power. And Alex, the arrogant investment banker, was simply a mid-level analyst who had just learned a very hard, very public lesson. I could feel their eyes on me, a mixture of surprise and dawning respect. They had seen the young, unassuming woman, perhaps dismissed me as just another hire. Now they were seeing their COO, sharp, decisive, and entirely in control. Alex's public humiliation was a harsh, unexpected lesson for the entire room. The meeting continued, a relentless march through data and strategy, but for Alex it was a slow, agonizing descent. Each time I addressed him directly, my voice calm but unwavering, he flinched. His answers became increasingly hesitant, his once sharp mind clouded by shame. Over the next few weeks, the boardroom became my stage, and Alex, my unwilling, shrinking audience. I didn't seek out opportunities to humiliate him. I simply did my job and did it exceptionally well. But that in itself was his torture. My every competent decision, every insightful question, every confident presentation was a stark reminder of his arrogant dismissal of my intellect. His earlier words, "You're just a brain, no beauty," echoed with a cruel irony. That brain was now his boss, holding his professional fate in her hands. His performance plummeted under the weight of his humiliation. He missed deadlines, his reports contained glaring errors, and his contributions in meetings became almost non-existent. He couldn't meet my gaze, and when he did, his eyes were filled with a mixture of fear and self-loathing. He was a shadow of the man I had encountered at the bar, his arrogance replaced by a profound sense of inadequacy. The alpha male, the successful investment banker, was crumbling. I heard whispers from other colleagues. "Did you see Alex today? He looks like he's seen a ghost. He's been off ever since Ashley took over." No one knew the full story of our initial encounter, but the tension was palpable. They simply observed the shift in power dynamics and Alex's inability to cope with it. His colleagues, witnessing his visible struggle, tried to offer subtle support, a quiet word, a shared glance. But it was clear Alex was battling an internal demon, one he couldn't share. The humiliation was too personal, too profound. One afternoon, Maria, my assistant, informed me Alex had requested a private meeting. I granted it, my expression neutral. He walked into my office, his shoulders slumped, looking utterly defeated. He didn't sit down. "Ms. Hayes," he began, his voice hoarse, devoid of its usual resonance. He avoided my eyes, staring at a spot on the wall behind me. I need to resign." I raised an eyebrow, a slight tilt of my head. "Is there a specific reason, Mr. Peterson? We value our employees and your contributions." I let the sentence trail off, knowing the hypocrisy of my words. His contributions lately had been negligible. He finally met my gaze, and in his eyes I saw not anger, but a raw, agonizing shame. I can't do this," he confessed, his voice barely a whisper. "I can't report to you. I can't face you every day. What I said that night, it was unforgivable. I was a pig, and I deserve this." He was utterly broken. The grand, arrogant investment banker was gone, replaced by a man consumed by his own folly. He didn't plead for mercy or ask for my understanding. He simply acknowledged his defeat. I simply nodded. "I accept your resignation, Mr. Peterson. Maria will help you with the offboarding process." I offered no platitudes, no false comfort. His resignation was his consequence, not my responsibility. He nodded, a jerky motion, then turned and walked out of my office, a silent, retreating figure. He left Aperture AI that day, unable to cope with reporting to the woman he had insulted. He simply vanished, swallowed by the vastness of the city, much like he had wanted me to vanish from his world. His departure caused a ripple, but not a significant wave. The company was thriving under my leadership. The strategic shifts I initiated quickly yielded impressive results. My brain was indeed proving its worth, navigating complex partnerships, streamlining operations, and driving innovation at an unprecedented pace. The initial skepticism about my age and gender quickly evaporated, replaced by genuine admiration and respect from my colleagues. My story, subtly, began to spread through the corporate world, not in the dramatic public way Alex's downfall was, but as a quiet legend whispered through executive networks. The young, brilliant COO who rose above superficial judgment. It was a powerful, unspoken testament. I had proved, not just to Alex, but to everyone, that intelligence and capability are a woman's most valuable assets, far outweighing superficial judgments. My success, built on merit and sheer intellectual force, was my ultimate vindication. I continued to thrive in my role, leading the company to unprecedented success. I mentored young women engineers, encouraging them to focus on their skills, their intellect, their ambition. I was a beacon, living proof that true worth comes from within, and that competence and self-respect are far more important than fleeting perceptions of beauty. My journey was a silent revolution, showing that a woman's power lay not in her it factor, but in her unwavering belief in herself and the undeniable force of her own intellect. The blind date that saw nothing had truly opened my eyes to everything. My role as COO at Aperture A. I became more than just a job. It was a platform. I led our teams to unprecedented success, navigating complex projects and outmaneuvering competitors with strategies born from logic and foresight. The brain Alex had so dismissively referred to was now literally building the future. The company thrived under my leadership, and I, the unassuming woman who prioritized intellect, became a respected figure in the male-dominated tech world. The whispers about Alex's abrupt departure eventually faded, replaced by conversations about our latest product launches and our soaring stock prices. His public humiliation had been swift and devastating, but my quiet, sustained success was the ultimate vindication. I never sought revenge, but the universe, it seemed, had a delightful sense of irony. I found immense satisfaction in mentoring young women within the company, especially those who, like me, might have felt overlooked or underestimated. I encouraged them to pursue their passions, to double down on their skills, and to never let anyone diminish their worth based on superficial judgments. I often shared stories, though never explicitly naming names, about the importance of substance over sparkle, of competence over fleeting perceptions. My own journey became a living example. My personal life, once a source of Chloe's well-meaning despair, also found its own rhythm. I wasn't actively looking for a partner, but when I did meet someone, it was through shared intellectual pursuits, in environments where my brain was celebrated, not critiqued. I found that true connection blossomed from mutual respect and shared interests, not from a jawline that could cut glass, or a manufactured it factor. My worth, my confidence, radiated from within, a far more potent allure than any fleeting beauty standard. My story, a powerful narrative in its own right, echoed a profound truth that transcended the corporate world. Intelligence and capability are a woman's most valuable assets, far outweighing superficial judgments. It wasn't about being more beautiful, it was about being more competent, more resilient, more authentically oneself. I had demonstrated that true worth comes from within, and that competence and self-respect are far more important than fleeting perceptions of beauty. The blind date that saw nothing had unwittingly given me the vision to see everything. My journey wasn't just about a career, it was about redefining value, proving that the most powerful sparkle comes not from glitter, but from a truly brilliant mind and an unwavering spirit. And so, Ashley's journey, from a dismissed brain, no beauty, to a respected leader and a beacon of inspiration, concludes. Her story is a testament to the quiet power of intellect, the strength of resilience, and the ultimate triumph of self-worth over superficiality. If Ashley's ascent resonated with you, if her quiet confidence sparked something within your own spirit, please consider liking this story, subscribing for more narratives that celebrate the power of authenticity and intelligence, and commenting below with your thoughts and reflections. Your insights are incredibly valuable to us, and we truly appreciate you joining us on this journey. Thank you for reading, and we hope to connect with you again soon.